Hi everyone, my name is David Politis. I'm the founder and CEO at BetterCloud, and with me today I have Kyle Quinn, who's our Director of Strategic Accounts. And this is the first webinar in a series of cloud IT webinars that we've started, and we're very excited for everyone to be here today. We have, looks like about 760 people joining today, so thank you very much for making the time and for joining. I hope this is a useful session. So just a high level on this Cloud IT webinar series, this is going to be a monthly webinar that we hold, and we're going to be talking about everything from best practices, managing, securing your Google domain, your Office 365 tenant, talking about industry research, whether it be with analysts or our own research that we've done, as well as customer data and how we can help you make use of that data. So this is the first webinar again in this series. The next one is going to be on July 8th, and it will be covering the framework for evaluating and implementing cloud applications. And you see the URL there, bettercloud.com/risk-reward. You can go there to register for that webinar. Like all the webinars, we're going to be recording them and sending them out afterwards. So even if you register and can't attend, we'll send you the webinar afterwards. So I'd like to start actually with a poll question. I just want to make sure we really know who we're talking to here in the audience, and so we're going to start with a quick poll question. For those of you that haven't participated in something like this before, you'll see the poll on your screen, and if you can just go ahead and select one of the answers, that would be great. So the first poll: how long has your organization been using Google Apps? So some of you may actually not be on Google Apps yet. Maybe you're currently in the implementation process or migrating. 0 to 1 year, 1 to 2, and 2+. So I'll wait for a minute here and let everyone answer. Great. So it looks like the majority here, it's over 1 year. So the vast majority, almost 80%. So it looks like most people have been on Google Apps, have been on the platform for a while, and understand understand the various features and functionality available, and have probably done some level of rollout of more than just mail to your organization. So that's great. That's really that'll help Kyle in terms of his direction with his slides. So thank you very much for answering that. So before we get into the specific items, the security flaws, if you will, in the admin console from Google, we want to talk about this shift to Cloud Office. This is a major paradigm shift that's occurring, and Cloud Office platforms, if you don't know, these are really just Google Apps and Office 365. So I believe that this shift to Cloud Office platforms, again, Google Apps and Office 365, is really the biggest shift that IT has gone through in the last 20 years. I mean, the last time that something like this happened was really with the rise of Exchange and the saturation of the market with Microsoft Exchange. I believe that is what we're going through today. It is completely changing how organizations run. It is changing how IT operates. It is changing the way that end users can collaborate with each other, and it's happening now. The shift is occurring right now. We are in the middle of that shift. So to speak specifically about how this is changing the day-to-day environments in organizations is, the old way, Exchange, Lotus Notes, GroupWise, data was obviously stored on-site, on-premises, on devices, on people's laptops, on their desktops. It was stored on-site. Today, that data is stored in the cloud, and that data is living really in someone else's data centers, and is accessible from any device at any time. And it just the data, where the data is living, really changes what you can do with that data, both good and bad. In the legacy world, obviously IT had total control over really everything going in and out of the network, everything going in and out of an organization. And today, these cloud office platforms, part of the benefit is actually the ability to share data easily, the ability for users to collaborate both inside and outside the organization. Both Google and Microsoft have options to publish documents on the internet, index documents, and have them published for anyone to access. That is a major shift. The fact that people can authenticate their own applications using their work credentials. I mean, these are things that just didn't exist when you were talking about a client-server structure the way that we had for decades. And lastly, IT was really responsible for uptime, storage, maintenance, upgrades, and that was all being done. That was a core part of IT's job. And today, that's really been outsourced to the platforms, and it's freed up IT to do a lot more in an organization, whether that's change management or integrations between applications, and it's really changed the environment for IT as well. So this is the shift is the numbers are staggering, the speed is staggering, and the changes are staggering, and that's really what we're here to talk about today is the old versus new and the challenges that come up in this new way. And we will focus today's presentation specifically on Google, but there's the same information that we will share with you in future webinars about the Office 365 suite. So, the speed that Google is building features is staggering. It's breakneck speed, where I think last year they did 200 releases, over 200 releases for new features, and the vast majority of those features were end-user facing features, and that has allowed them to be the innovative platform that they are. And you see that in things like Inbox, and you see that in Hangouts, and you see the speed to market for their end user functionality is amazing. Of course, when you're doing that, it's hard to actually deliver the management and security functionality to support those new features at the same pace. There's a lot of reasons for that, but if nothing else, first you have to understand how people are going to use these new features before you can actually build the security around them. And so we have seen in our years in this space that the speed of innovation many times leaves a variety of security vulnerabilities and risks for IT and for organizations, and that's what we're really going to drill into today. And again, this is not just a Google-related thing. This is cloud platforms in general. Salesforce did not launch with the security tools that they have today. NetSuite did not launch with the security tools that they have today. This is a common challenge in the cloud, is that the platforms are providing innovative and powerful functionality to their users, but the management and security tools provided to their administrators is not being developed at the same speed. So with that, let me introduce Kyle Quinn, who will be our speaker today. Kyle is really one of the first Google Apps consultants in the world, started one of the largest Google Apps consulting firms in the world, and has done some of the most high-profile migrations and deployments of Google Apps. And we're lucky to have Kyle join us at Better Cloud a couple of years ago, and he's been he really is the foremost expert on the areas that we're going to drill into today around the security of Google Apps, of the platform, of the admin console. So I'm very excited to have Kyle speaking with us today. And so with that, I will hand it off to Kyle. And just one thing before Kyle gets started, if you have questions, please ask them in the question section of the GoToMeeting app. I'm going to be monitoring those questions throughout, and I'll probably be interrupting Kyle. Sorry, Kyle, I'll be interrupting you throughout with some of those questions, and by answering them in line is going to be easier than waiting to the end. So thank you again, and with that, I'll leave this to Kyle.
Great. Thank you very much, David. I'm excited to talk to you today about Google's security flaws and some potential ways to fix them. But the first item I really want to cover is Google security. One thing that we want to stress before we get into some of the vulnerabilities is to talk about how truly secure Google's platform is. Google has built their platform from the ground up, and they've really had security in mind as they built it out. They have a very strong security culture. They have hundreds of engineers that all they do on a daily basis is work to protect your data, to secure your data centers. And along these lines, they've gotten multiple third-party certifications that prove, and they have audits that prove out that they are truly a secure platform. They've also made a fairly large shift in their the way they handle your data, in the fact that over the last, I guess, about year and a half, they've set it up so that they encrypt all your data at rest. So this means that as your data sits on servers that are secured and your data is obfuscated across multiple servers, on top of all that, they encrypt it all at rest. So Google really does focus on your security. They really focus on the security of your data, the security of their data centers. But one of the keys to Google security is that they empower admins and users to improve security and compliance. And that's actually a line that's directly out of their security white paper, is that they provide that level of security at the data centers, but some of the security relies on the admins and the end users taking actions to secure your domain. And that's really the area we're focusing on today, is those areas where administrators can make some changes, can add some tools or some features to make sure their Google Apps instance is secure, and really the control that Google gives end users and how you want to be able to put policies in place and those type of things to control what end users are able to do, or at a minimum make end users aware of what they do when they click and approve some access or some security settings. So with that, I think we'll start moving into the meat of the presentation, and today we're going to be covering the 7 security flaws in the admin console. We've really picked out what we feel are the top 7. There may be some more. Some of these may not affect your organization depending on how you're configured, but we think these are really the top key security items within the Google Apps platform. And the first one we're going to hit on is the managing of cloud applications. Again, as David said, with the paradigm shift, there's a whole new world out there of cloud applications, whether it be applications that people install on a mobile device, or whether it be a browser plugin that helps you, check your grammar before you send out an email. All these tools make the Google Apps platform incredibly powerful. They extend it beyond, just email into the other areas. They increase collaboration, they increase productivity. But with that, there is potential for loss of data and potential for users approving cloud applications that may not be appropriate for what they do, or may contain some malicious code or something like that. And that's really where we get into the risk. The control panel does offer some limited ways you can control these applications. You can go as far as just to turn them off. But in doing that, you really turn off a lot of functionality that end users like to leverage. We also have noticed that users don't fully understand what these applications mean. They, much like the terms of service on mobile apps and that type of stuff, they just click OK and just accept it. So they're usually not aware of what they're approving, that they may be approving an app that has full access to read and write email or full access to read and write their drive and docs. We also see that these cloud applications have a large adoption rate. You can see from our Better Cloud stats there, this is an organization that we looked at, and they had on average just 17.5 apps per user, and 36% of those apps had read-write access to Drive. So users are approving, are installing, they are accepting the permissions on apps. You just really want to make sure that you're controlling those, and controlling those in the right way with a policy that allows you to really govern what apps are installed or not installed, to whitelist or blacklist those type of apps. You really want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on that and monitoring in a way that's effective, that allows your users to leverage the apps that are out there, but that also gives you the control that you need to make sure that your organization isn't bringing in risky applications and isn't possibly losing data through these applications. The next big challenge with Google Apps and the control panel is around password updates and complexity. For years, it's been a fairly standard practice in IT departments that your password has to have a certain level of complexity, and it also is something you have to change, whether it's every 90 days or every 180 days. Most large IT organizations have rules around, you have to update your password on a semi-regular basis. Google Apps out of the box allows you to only set the length of a password, but also doesn't force you to update your passwords. And this is where the big risk comes in, is that weak passwords are the most common method that hackers use to get into systems. There's a survey done every year of the most common passwords, and the number one is almost always password. And if all you set are length requirements, then people are actually able to leverage that as their password. So the key way to avoid this risk is to force users to increase the complexity, and then also force them to update it. A password that changes often, whether that be 60 or 90 days, forces users to, number one, maintain that complexity, but it also creates a moving target for hackers, so that if they are trying to brute force a password or anything like that, it's changing every so often so they can't get into the accounts and access your information. And again, one of the key facts on this is that 80% of the security incidents were due to use of weak passwords. So it really is a large risk in your environment, and it really is something that you want to, whether it's through leveraging SSO or some other system that forces that complexity and forces them to change, or whether it's to use tools that are built around and on top of Google Apps to force that password update on a regular and scheduled basis. Right now we're going to ask a poll question. Basically, what's your organization's philosophy on Google Drive sharing? Google Drive sharing is something that again is a new paradigm. It used to be if you wanted to share a document, you would attach it to an email and send it out. Now you can actually share and collaborate real time on documents. This dramatically changes how organizations interact with each other, and it provides a very powerful tool for users to get work done faster. No longer are you sending, here's version 1 of the presentation, and then 5 people edit it, and you get 5 versions back and try to put it all into a single version. It just really makes the workflow much quicker. Okay, and it looks like your answers kind of align. We actually did this survey with our Better Cloud customers just over a year ago. And here's kind of how the data spread out. We found about 20% of the organizations have basically turned off this feature to outside. So they're able to share within their domain but not outside. We find that the largest group, which is about 35%, allows outside sharing, but they actually monitor it. So they have a tool or a process to monitor what's being shared outside. And then there's, again, about 25% that allow sharing outside but don't monitor it. And that really brings us to our third security flaw, is essentially preventing data loss. For years, there's been DLP tools around email that have done some scanning, some regular expression scanning within emails to make sure that people aren't sending out stuff that's marked confidential or that they're not supposed to send out. With this new paradigm shift and the ability to share out docs, we want to make sure that we have the same type of data loss prevention in our Google Drive instance. We want to make sure that we are checking and validating what people are sharing out and make sure that we're offsetting the risk of data loss through Google Drive sharing. And again, most of what we've found is as people have run Better Cloud's DLP tools and set up policies around them, what we found is most of the time the sharing is not intentional. People may not realize that there's confidential information in a document and they share it out publicly, or they may have just clicked on the button incorrectly and shared it out publicly. So having a robust policy, something that can run in real time or as close to real time on the back end and validate what's out there, do some checks on data loss to make sure that anything that's getting shared out you can pull back very quickly and you can react to and confirm that data is not being shared out. Again, as this functionality continues to grow across all the cloud platforms, this is something that we really want to make sure that we're doing the data loss prevention on our Google Drive and make sure that nothing is exposed that shouldn't be. The next big area, again, falls into the paradigm shift. Social networking was something that nobody knew about, 7, 8 years ago. Nobody had ever heard of what social networking was. Social networking meant that you went to a networking event and usually had a beer and discussed, lead exchange or something like that. Now it's become much more prevalent, and one big area of that is Google+. And it's one area that comes with your Google Apps Suite that organizations can use for really powerful collaboration. I know that we use it internally. It's a great way to get some of the bloat out of your email account and have quick collaboration and quick back and forth, share things out with the company in a quick and fun social way. So it really is a powerful tool for collaborating. However, again, with all this collaboration and the ability to share publicly, you open up a risk that users can share things out publicly that maybe you as an organization don't want them to. Again, Google provides very few controls to limit Google+. So when you turn it on for your users, they have the ability to share things out publicly. They have the ability to post things out on the bigger Google+ world, which is over 300 million users globally. It's 38% of the digital population. So they do have the ability to share things out and share things out quickly. Again, the key to mitigating this risk is to have policies in place that are going to review what people are putting out, that are going to be able to notify you or notify the end user if possibly they posted things publicly that shouldn't be posted publicly, or maybe they put in a credit card number, social security number, something like that, again, you don't want to be shared out publicly. In the case of credit cards or social security numbers, you probably don't want those shared at all on Google+. So again, having a robust policy that can go out and proactively scan what's out on Google+ and notify you of anything that may be inappropriate is really the key way to mitigate this risk. And it allows you to mitigate the risk in such a way that you're not taking away functionality from end users. They're still able to fully function. They're still able to leverage the tools. The tools are basically seamless to them, but it gives you some control over recognizing what's all out on Google+, and some ability to manage that. The fifth large risk that we see in the Google Apps platform and the Google Apps control panel is around managing mobile devices. And again, everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but just about everyone nowadays carries a mobile device in their pocket. As these mobile device use continues to grow. I know that I have my email, I have my Google Drive, I have all of this information, and I can almost do a full day's work just from my mobile device. So again, with having all this data and all this access from your mobile device, it really creates an additional risk of not only securing the mobile device, they're very small, they can get, left in a hotel room, left in the back of a cab, they can be stolen, all of those type of things. So you have the risk of it being stolen, but you also want to make sure that you control the risk of what is on that mobile device. And the Google Control Panel does have some MDM features, and they have some control that you can have over your mobile platform and what people are leveraging in the mobile platform. The key is taking that kind of to the next level to make sure that, particularly as some of the bring your own device policies come into play, that as you wipe a device, that you're not wiping the entire device, that you're only wiping the corporate data off of it. This becomes very important as people leave an organization. You want to be able to wipe their mobile device, but if they own that device, you don't necessarily want to wipe the whole device, because then they're going to lose their kids' soccer pictures and some of those type of things. So you really want to make sure that you have full access to wipe what you need to wipe, but then also to give you control over what is installed or not installed on that device. Again, if I bring my own device, I should have control over what I want to install to a certain degree, but the organization should have control on whether that app has access to the Google Apps data, to the company's corporate data. And that's really the key with MDM and managing mobile devices of, yes, you can install that app, but we're not going to allow it to read your corporate email or to read your corporate drive instance. Again, the key fact here, which I found kind of amazing, it actually came directly from, I believe, from Google's Twitter feed, is that 1 of 10 computing devices shipping this year will be a traditional PC. So if you think about that, 5-6 years ago, it was almost all traditional PCs. And now mobile has spread so far that between the tablets and phones and all of that type of stuff, that 1 in 10 is not a traditional, or 9 of 10 is not traditional PCs. The next risk is just around account management and deprovisioning user accounts. Again, there's, every company, depending on what your size is, probably has a process and a policy to deprovision user accounts. It used to be in the old paradigm that you could deprovision a user account, you would essentially lock them out, but if you were on an Exchange server or on a Notes server, you still had that database or that collection of their email that was just stored on your server, and you could do with it what you want. Now it's a different paradigm on deprovisioning users, because number one, they can access Google Apps from anywhere in the world, so you need to make sure that you deprovision them and lock them out much quicker, but also you want to make sure that you're not deleting that account, because when you delete it, it removes it all from the data center, and you no longer have access to that data. So that's really the key on deprovisioning accounts is, number one, you want to make sure that it's done very quickly and efficiently, so that users are locked out, so that they can't go home to their PC at home or their mobile device or wherever and potentially get into systems and pull down things that they're not supposed to, or take actions that they're not supposed to. But you also want to make sure that in that process you don't lose any data. You don't lose any data by them taking it, but you also don't lose any data that the company or the organization has spent money to develop, whether that be presentations or documents in Drive, whether that be email communication between that employee and a customer or vendor. You want to make sure that you have a robust enough deprovisioning policy that it not only saves the email so that you can interact with that in the future, but it also sets up, notifications that user is no longer there. You can take in the control panel, you can share, or you can transfer ownership of their Drive documents, But there's really a lot of other data that you want to make sure you're also taking care of, whether it be Google Sites data, if they built company intranets, you want to make sure that ownership of those transfers, whether it be secondary calendars. Those, again, can be very important to departments or to projects. You want to make sure that you transfer those. Managing group access. They may have been an owner or a manager of a group. You want to make sure that that access is maintained. So there's really a lot more beyond just transferring of drive documents that you want to make sure that you account for in deprovisioning users. And again, there's, as I was doing research on this, there was a gentleman in California that worked for the California Water Services that was actually terminated at about 11 o'clock in the morning, and his account wasn't deprovisioned until later on that evening. As part of their policy, every 24 hours they delete terminated employees, and in that time he was able to shift $9 million to an offshore bank account. So it only takes a matter of seconds for someone to do something incorrect or wrong. You need to make sure that you're taking the appropriate steps and you're doing them quick enough to get that user locked out of the system, but then also take the second step to make sure that in doing that you're not losing any of the data that's important to your organization. And the seventh item that we have is really detecting last login or login anomalies. Again, you're able to log into Google Apps from anywhere in the world. If you use Google Apps, out of the box, I can go to any internet cafe or grab someone else's mobile device and go onto their browser and log into my Google account and have access to all the data that I have within the organization. So you want to make sure that you're really tracking any login anomalies and making sure that you're aware of where people are logging in, when they last logged in. But the real key to that, Google does provide a suspicious login alert, and I highly recommend that you leverage it. It's great information. It's something that they've rolled in the not too distant past, and it really is something that can help you be aware of things that are kind of out of the ordinary. With that being said, depending on the size of your organization, you might get hundreds of these a day, particularly if you're a large organization and you have people that move around. I know that I travel almost every week for work. So I'm guessing that Tim, our IT guy, gets potentially suspicious login alerts for me because this week, today I'm logging in from Denver, tomorrow I might be in San Francisco, 3 days from now I might be in New York. And those are the type of things that trigger that suspicious login. So the real key is to have a process by which you get that suspicious login alert, but then what you do with it next, the way you're able to pull data or have reports that really tell you what is done after that suspicious login. So if you get a suspicious login and suddenly someone out of the blue sends 1,000 emails right after the suspicious login, that should be a trigger that tells you, hey, this is really something you should look at. It's not just someone who happened to be on vacation at some place and logged in from a different location. They're taking a lot of action that's out of the norm. If they're also logging in and then suddenly sharing their entire drive data with another account, that again would be something that should really trigger more follow-up than just the suspicious login would do. So you want to make sure that although you leverage what Google has with the suspicious login, you have the ability and the reports and the features and functions to really take that to the next level and say, okay, I need to be triggered about a suspicious login, but I also need to then be able to quickly find out what else was done after that suspicious login. And is it an account that I need to shut down, or is it just someone who happens to be on vacation and decided that they got sunburned yesterday and so they checked their email today rather than sitting by the pool? The key fact here is that on average it takes, there's a 156-day lapse between the time a computer resource is compromised and the time that compromise is detected. So when you start to look at that, 156 days, that is an awful lot of of damage that someone can do after they've gotten access to your systems. So again, the suspicious login alert is great, but detecting what's done after that will tell you whether that's an account that you need to shut down right away, or whether it just happens to be an anomaly that is understandable or makes sense. Moving on to next steps. Hopefully you guys found today's presentation beneficial. Hopefully we gave you some insight into some of the flaws that are out there in what is a very secure platform in Google Apps. Again, a lot of the flaws out there are really why we built Better Cloud. It's why Better Cloud is in the market, and it really helps address a lot of these concerns. We recommend that you try a free 30-day trial. Again, you can go to bettercloud.com/install and install your free 30-day trial. We also recommend that you email any questions that you have. You can email me directly, just kyle.quinn@bettercloud.com, and we'd be more than happy to discuss any of these in further detail with you, or also talk to you about the different solutions that are out there that can help you address these concerns. Again, we want to offer you up to register for our next Cloud IT webinar around the risk and reward. So it's bettercloud.com/risk-reward. And again, we'll be posting, that landing page will have updated information as we develop out the webinar. And if you have any specific questions on it, please reach out to myself directly or to anyone at Better Cloud, and we can get you answers. Again, I want to thank everyone for the time today. We appreciate you attending the webinar, and we look forward to you attending webinars in the future. If you have any questions for our CEO, David, his email is there, as well as if you have any questions directly for me, please reach out. Thanks a lot, and have a good day.